What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Specific Jawns podcast, the podcast where we talk all things Philadelphia Phillies. I'm your host this week, Pat Barker, joined by my good friend, my fellow Jawn, Carl Bacuti. Carl, we got a decent amount to cover this week, and I'm not going to waste too much time. But before we get into it, just a little bit. How are you? What's new? How's life?
I'm doing great. The Phillies feel like an energized team still as frustrating as they are. It's midsummer. We got baseball happening. Weather's nice. I'm not gonna say anything negative about how I'm doing. Things are rolling great. How about you, Pat?
I'm good. I like this unspoken agreement we have here to spare the negativity and save it for when we start talking about the Phillies. I think that's something that
That's right.
we should do every week. Before we,
Also have
yeah,
also have a lot to look forward to this week. I should mention this. So the Phillies play the Field of Dreams game in Iowa on Thursday. I'm really psyched for that, to watch that. But I will actually be meeting the team in Minnesota. They're playing the Twins Thursday. They have an off day Friday, and then they go to Minneapolis for two games. And I will get to see Target Field for the first time, catch a ball game, and yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. I love few things I enjoy more each year than seeing a new ballpark and a new city. So psyched for that.
it is. It's truly the best catching a game at a new park. Target Field is one of the few remaining on my list as well, and maybe the only one left that I actually want to go to for any reason other than just to check it off the list. It looks like beautiful park. I've heard nothing but great things about the city. So I'm jealous. I'll be living vicariously through you this weekend. That seems like a lot of fun.
Right on. I'll have a full report next week.
And to listen to that report, make sure you're checking out this podcast every week. We're available everywhere now. It took a while, but we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music. Do all the things, guys. I don't like having to ask you to do these things, but also I'm not about to go buying views or doing any of that. I can't afford that. So help us out however you can, and those ways are very, very simple. If there's a subscribe button, hit it. If there's a comment to leave, leave it. Even if it's just an emoji of a baseball or something, all of that helps with the algorithm. We're run by stupid robots and AI and everything right now, and they probably hear me saying this, and now they're going to shadow ban the podcast. So fight back against that. Do whatever you got to do to get the word out, or just tell somebody by word of mouth. Send a telegram, whatever. However you can help us, we would greatly appreciate it. With that being said, let's launch right into this week. Now, when we talked last, it was a week ago. It was right after the trade deadline. The Phillies had made the acquisition of Luis Arraez and a couple of relief pitchers. I believe, in fact, when we were recording, that first game with Arraez was going on. The first game, as I'm sure you all remember, big success. Arraez came out of the gate swinging. He looked good in that four-hole. Game two, he came out, hit a home run his first at bat. Luis Arraez fever took over Philadelphia. Now we've had a week to kind of sit back, let things subside, and see what the new look Phillies actually look like. Because the changes go deeper than just acquiring Luis Arraez. They moved half the team around to accommodate that acquisition. And we are sitting here a week later since the deal. The Phillies are 5-3. The first game did not feature Luis Arraez. He got there for the next day. So from that point on, 4-3. All of the losses very close. A couple of them in extra innings. But regardless, one game over 500, and they are in progress as we speak with the Cardinals. So what I wanted to do is just kind of go around position by position to all the guys who have been affected by this move, and I just want to take your temperature, and I want to figure out where we're at on the new look Phillies, and let's launch right into it. Going around the diamond, we will start at first base. Now, 2 weeks ago, we had Bryce Harper at first base. He was an all-star. He was having one of his elite or elite adjacent type of seasons. Now he's into right field. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And our new first baseman is Alec Bohm, except when it's Kyle Schwarber. That's right. We moved everything around, and the result of that was Arraez at second, which meant we had to move Stott to third, which meant we had to move Alec Bohm to first. Some people would say maybe Alec Bohm isn't good enough to warrant moving Bryce Harper back to the outfield. Don Mattingly thought so until he didn't, and now Alec Bohm has sat 2 of the last 4 games, at which point you might say, oh, well, they put Harper back at first. Nope. They left him in right field or DH'd him and put Kyle Schwarber at first base. I'm tipping my hand a little bit right now and letting you know kind of what I think about it. I don't want to poison the wells here. Carl, pretend I didn't say any of that. Tell me what you think about your new first base platoon of Alec Bohm and Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, this is probably the least surprising set of results of the entire situation as we go around the diamond and into right field to discuss the changes since the trade deadline. Alec Bohm is the one guy of all the pieces that we could have maneuvered around to accommodate Luis Arraez or anybody else. He's the one who you can't throw a rapid transition to. He's the least mentally tough player on this Phillies team. I don't think anybody has a problem acknowledging that, maybe including himself. He's a guy who you just know you switch his position, suddenly he will be the one whose game suffers at the plate as well, because that's just the way baseball goes. You're doing well in the field, you're usually hitting well. It usually comes all together. And you usually don't get out of a hitting slump until you start, having some balls and making some plays. Alec Bohm, he really, the one thing I can say complimentary about him since 2022 is how he did grow as a third baseman. Became a functional, maybe slightly above average first baseman. I did not panic every time the ball was roped down to the hot corner. He's a little bit awkward in his movements. He is athletic, but he's not smooth. And at first base, he looks more that way than he even does at third because he's got fewer reps there. He really reminds me at times of, a late stage Rhys Hoskins on the Phillies. The guy that can cost you a game because he moves like a baby giraffe. Just doesn't approach the ball right. When he catches the ball coming across the diamond, I don't trust his angles. It just doesn't look right. You give the eye test, it just doesn't look smooth. And sure enough, he is absolutely tanking at the plate again this year. I mean, how many of these slumps do we have to endure? And it's not just, the counting stats that we haven't seen since the trade deadline. It's the big moments. He had a chance with men on in that one game against the Nationals, and we got the reliever on the ropes. He's walked a couple guys, swings at the first pitch with the softest of contact, and is getting appropriately booed. And then he throws his fit in the dugout, as he's prone to do. I can't tell you, I don't think there's anything I'm more sick of with this team than an Alec Bohm tantrum. And that's what we saw, and I think Don Mattingly responded to that more than him not coming up big in that moment. I think it has to do with his emotional stability, and, Donnie Baseball's an old ball player. You don't do that. So we sat him for Kyle Schwarber at first base, and, there are times where I think I'd rather watch Kyle Schwarber Fred Flintstone his way around first base than Alec Bohm pout or whatever else he's going to do and struggle at the plate. First base has gotten way worse since the trade deadline. I don't think that's surprising to us at all. Bryce Harper, in the same way, had grown as a first baseman, had become maybe slightly above average defensively. I would have arguments against that. There's still big holes in his game as a defensive fielder. But first base is a big minus. An F if we're grading this since the trade deadline.
You dedicated way more words to Alec Bohm than I'm willing to do at this point. I've said all that can be said about Alec Bohm. I will summarize in 3 words. This dude stinks. He stinks. He can't hit. He, like you said, he had worked his way into being an adequate third baseman. He was under-delivering what you would expect offensively out of a third baseman, so you move him to first base where you would expect even more. It was one thing to move people around to accommodate Luis Ariz, which everybody knows Luis Ariz, below average second baseman. He could have slid in at first base and we wouldn't have had to move, Stott off of second. But say what you want, and I don't like that we made so many moves to accommodate Luis Ariz, who is poor defensively. But at least there's an upside. You're like, well, he's gonna hit. He's our new cleanup hitter, and he's gonna not strike out, and he's got a couple batting titles. Alec Bohm offers literally no upside. There's no reason for him to be doing anything. He's 1 for 2 with a walk today, which brings his OPS up to 650, brings his average up to 226. Those are the numbers that are up. You now have a first baseman hitting 8th. You hit the lottery. You lucked out. You lucked into Derek Hill, who's actually giving you something out there. And he has big, giant catches and home run robberies and grand slams, and he's just and you have
the mental and emotional polar opposite of Alec Bohm. That's who Derek Hill is.
In every single way. In every single way. Skill set, but like you said, more importantly, emotionally. There's no emotional maturity in this guy. I'm done. I'm done with him. And I don't understand for the life of me why we can't just pivot back now. Is it because Bryce Harper made a really big production out of being I'm back in right field, I'm taking a bow and reclaiming my whatever, just say, hey, the last week was a bad dream. We came to our senses, and we're going to leave Ariz at second, and we're going to leave Stott at third, and we're going to put Bryce back at first, and put Derek Hill or Brian De La Cruz or whoever in right field. That's clearly the solution. And for some reason, I don't know if it's a sunk cost thing where it's well, we already started with this thing, we got to do it. No, you don't. Get Alec Bohm out of the lineup. Get him out of the lineup. May he find a new home next year and rebound and, improve himself emotionally and turn into a good ball player. I truly wish him nothing but the best. But I can't look at him anymore, especially at the cost of the entire team. I mean, remember that game where Howard got ejected and we had to play Oswalt in left field and Ibanez at first base?
Sure do. Great game.
Mattingly is doing that voluntarily. Mattingly is just what's the worst position I can put these guys in? And I'm not being forced to do it. It's kind of embarrassing to watch, to be honest with you. And it's all so we can get Alec Bohm's bat in the 8-hole. I don't understand it. I mean, thank God he's out of the 5-hole. I'm thankful for small gifts, but at this point, just cut your losses and move on. Stick him on the bench. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, sorry, I want to belabor this just one more minute. And shout out to our buddy and co-podcaster Mike Sambuco, who has been unable to make these recordings the past 2 weeks. He's made some great points. He's definitely better than both of us at scouting the minor league system and knowing what's going on down there. We definitely made him want to pull his hair out by not even mentioning whatever the hell his name was, that
Marquez.
Marquez that we traded for Ariz. But one guy that he did mention, it was intriguing to me because I would love to just cut Alec Bohm. I'll say that straight up. I think we're both there. Felix Reyes, who was brought up earlier in the season, quick cup of coffee, hit a home run on his first at-bat. That was fun. He was playing left field. He's hitting 285 with a 835 OPS and 21 bombs in AAA. I don't think Alec Bohm could do any of those numbers in AAA, frankly, from the right side of the plate. And he is apparently, even though we had him come up as a spot outfielder, he's a very functional first baseman. So there's an option right there that at this point, what are we holding on to Alec Bohm for? I have no idea. But there are options there. We could have Reyes, give him a shot and put Derek Hill or Brian De La Cruz out in right field and DH Bryce Harper if you want some days. I mean, obviously you got to find a place for Schwarber, but I'd much rather play with that combination of players than have Alec Bohm be part of the equation whatsoever.
Yeah,
So
and look, I mean,
something else.
if we didn't cut Nick Castellanos, we would have never discovered Derek Hill.
Yeah.
It was a series of events with Adolis Garcia and the injury, and necessitated us getting lucky, and Derek Hill being a real spark plug for this team. Would Felix Reyes be a similar spark plug? I don't know. Could he be less of a spark plug than Alec Bohm? There's simply no way. There's simply no way. You're better off just like rolling the dice and hoping you get lucky at this point, in my mind. And by the way, shout out also to Mike. In place of us not mentioning that we traded Marquez last week and breaking that down, I will throw him a little bit of red meat here and say that his boy Alex McFarland just made, I believe, his second major league appearance in the game that's going on right now and surrendered the first run of the game. The Cardinals are up 1-0 in the seventh. Why we have a guy with one major league appearance under his belt appearing in the seventh inning of a tie game when we are in an active playoff race? I don't know. We'll get to the bullpen in a little bit.
Against a team that's very much in the thick of that very playoff race. Hot on our heels. I don't understand it. Anyway.
Yeah. Especially since yesterday, all our key bullpen pieces got to rest. Because we threw Alan Ronhell out there for, 2 2/3, something like that? Whatever. We'll get there when we get there. Let's stick with the plan. Let's go around the diamond right now, and let's go to second base. But congratulations to Alex McFarland for making the show and, a successful first outing. Second one, not so good. Now we go to second base where Luis Arraez, obviously, like I said, came in, set Philadelphia on fire for a couple days. Now he is in the midst of an 0-for-14 skid, his longest hitless streak of the year. He has been a non-factor the last few games, batting average down to .314, which is still worlds better than anyone else on this team. So we've experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly the first week of Luis Arraez. Talk to me, Carl. What do you think?
Yeah, even the ugly doesn't scare me, bother me. He struck out once, and everyone was shocked. He struck out once in the past week. I think that might have been his sixth of the year, or something crazy like that. When he is in a slump, he's making fly ball outs. He's making ground ball outs. He's not usually grounding into a double play. It can feel, in a different era, like he's just not productive. But I am so desperate for movement in this offense. I talked about that a lot last week, why I love Arraez, why I've been clamoring for him for 3 years. He gets guys running. He makes people catch the ball. There's contact. There's solid contact. A guy like that will make his way out of his slump. He doesn't look lost up there. He might be missing by, a millimeter off the barrel here and there, but he's fine. This slump is nothing really to speak of other than, he's a guy who's going to do that. And it might feel more pronounced because he's not a power guy. He won't make up for it with a big moment. But the first couple days that we saw him, we had him batting cleanup. He was driving in runs. He was causing chaos on the base paths. That's exactly what we wanted, and that's exactly what we're getting. So, in terms of him as a second baseman, getting exactly what we expected, I was actually a little bit pleasantly surprised the past week to see him field his position pretty smooth. I actually like him on the transfer on a double play. He looks good there. It's his range that is the biggest problem, and that's not going to change for him. My biggest concern, other than that, with him at second base is what will it expose in Trey Turner's game and his lack of range. And I think there were a couple plays up the middle where that was evident to me. I'm not sure anyone spoke of it on TV or on the radio, but made me think, I think Stott probably gets that. Trey doesn't even have to make that play. I feel a lot more right past the diving Trey Turner moments than we saw with Bryson Stott at the position. But overall, positive to me. Arraez was the right guy to get. It's my feel.
Yeah, I mean, certainly any negatives in the field have been negligible so far. Um, I think that it's worth noting that as much as I have spoken authoritatively about how he is a weak defender, he spent the last 2 years at first base, and the reason he signed with San Francisco in part was because he demanded to play second. He felt like he could do it. He felt like he wanted to do it, and I think he knows that if he is a capable second baseman, his value is higher.
That's
Um,
right.
Teams need second baseman more than they need first baseman. Plus, offensive skills at second base is more rare than it is at first. So he really wanted to be a second baseman, and this year, pretty much all of the underlying defensive metrics have him having his best year ever at second base. So he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's having his best year defensively ever. Now, do I think he's a Gold Glover out there? No, and he never will be. But he is at least adequate. As far as what he gives offensively, it's a breath of fresh air. It's so nice to watch. I mean, that game against Toronto that they ended up losing, where they had a big rally coming in the ninth inning, and then Arise comes up and he works, I think it was like an 8 or a 9 pitch walk, fouls off a couple of tough pitches, works this big walk, fires up the dugout, jogs to first, and then Alec Bohm hits the first pitch on the ground with an exit velocity of 12. Um, obviously you can't blame that on Arise. He did. I think that plate appearance, had they come back and won that game, um, people would be talking even more about that. He's just injecting new life into this offense, and for a team that has looked lifeless, I mean, really, God bless Derek Hill and Luis Arise coming up and just doing the Pulp Fiction shot of adrenaline to the heart and bringing this team back from looking dead at various points in the season. Now, I think that someone's going to have to do it before October if they make it. And it's going to have to be somebody on the current roster. Somebody's going to have to get really hot. But Arise transforms the entire thing. He's not a typical cleanup hitter. I'm sure my dad would be rolling in his grave right now if he knew that they were purposely putting a guy with 5 home runs in the leadoff spot or whatever he has. But the bottom line is he transforms the whole lineup. He makes the whole thing better. And I've been very happy with what we've gotten out of him thus far, even with this current skid. Like you say, he doesn't look lost at all. It's just when you put that many balls into play, some of them are going to find gloves, some of them are not. And I think he could just as easily go 6 for his next 8. I'm not worried about that even a little bit.
Yeah. And I do think, to your point again, it's not just that he's 0 for 14. Let's count how many pitches it took him to get to 0 for 14. Let's compare that to an 0 for 14 skid by literally anybody else in this lineup. Guarantee you he will have contributed, at least in wearing the opposing pitcher down. So yeah, the guy just finds a way to be valuable at the plate way more often than not. Yeah, he's the right guy.
It's a results-based business, but as long as the approach is right, more often than not, it'll work out. And his approach is right, so great first week out of Luis Arise. I think, better things are to come for the team. Like I say, the losses were all very, very close. All of those were winnable ball games. I just, I don't want to harp too much on some of these managerial decisions, but these things could come back to haunt you. He got Bohm out of the 5 spot, but the batting order, the decision to use an Alex McFarland in a scoreless game in the 7th inning tonight, Schwarber at first base, all of these things could come back to haunt him. And I hope that they don't, because I think at the end of the day, the Phillies making or not making the playoffs this year might be decided by 1 or 2 games.
Yep, no doubt.
Moving around the diamond, we'll skip over Trey Turner. Lord knows we have discussed and will discuss him enough on this show. And we'll move over to third base, where Bryson Stott has taken over at the hot corner. Stott, a Gold Glove caliber defender at second base, has moved over to third. It's been a pretty... it hasn't been exceptionally noteworthy in the field for Stott. He has a couple of big hits at the plate since he moved over there. What's been your main takeaway from our new third baseman?
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit of that assessment of his fielding so far. He hasn't made any, acrobatic highlight plays yet, but I watch him field the ball, throw the ball, approach the ball, and this guy is a primo infielder, no matter where you put him. Smooth as silk on his, again, approaching the grounder from any angle. You would expect, at least a week of rust in adjusting to the angles, going from second to third. Very different velocity, very different approaches you have to take. Fields it clean, always seems to be set for the throw, has a great smooth three-quarter cannon from third base, always accurate. I haven't seen him throw anything other than right in the first baseman's chest, whether he's under pressure or not to make that throw. I'm thrilled with it. I think he has proven that he will have a long major league career just in the past week. I really do. A guy who can field that way from any position is always going to be valuable. You combine that with the fact that he's hitting over 300 since July 1st. I think he's actually our most productive hitter, technically, since early July. I like his approach at the plate. Again, seeing how, doing well in the field and at the plate tends to come hand in hand for a lot of guys in this game. His stroke is smooth, like it was, in his best days of like 2022. Hitting doubles down the line, working counts. He used to be a great two-strike hitter. I'm feeling a little bit more of that again. And I actually, I'm thrilled with everything about Bryson Stott since the trade deadline. One thought exercise I just kind of freaked myself out with is that, he's upping his value, showing that he can make this kind of switch this quickly. He is a shortstop. He's a major league shortstop. A guy that is that good of an infielder should be at the most important infield position, which is shortstop. And I worry that, as if his offensive production continues to be solid the rest of this year, and we don't have baseball in 2027, all we will have effectively done is priced ourselves out of Bryson Stott because another team's going to sign him for shortstop money because he doesn't have corner infielder offensive numbers. Even more reason to make him shortstop. And high praise for the guy. I know we said we weren't going to talk about Trey Turner right now, but it just highlights yet again what are we dancing around when we have a major league shortstop who deserves to be in that position and will give us the most value at that position.
Well, I don't really know how to answer that question because I think that the logical answer would be, I think I would normally exercise caution and say, well, maybe they'll move him back to shortstop and move Trey to the outfield. And they probably didn't want Trey to make such a big transition in the middle of the season, but they made everybody else on the team make a transition. So
right.
Who knows? I'm not too worried about pricing ourselves out of the Bryson Stott market, simply because he's had one really good month offensively. And look, I love what he's been doing, and I think he is frankly the key to this team going from fringe contenders to legitimate contenders. I think if Bryson Stott continues to hit like he has since the beginning of July, I think this is a real team. I think this is a real team that could win a World Series or get to a World Series or, compete with whatever your bar is. I think they reach it. But the fact of the matter is his overall body of work, and he's still young enough when he's going to be entering free agency that somebody's going to pay him regardless, but I don't think he's done enough to warrant one of these giant mega deals. I also don't think that we're going to have no baseball next year, and I hope I'm right about that because it would kill me to lose an entire season. But that's another podcast. Stott is great. He's a great defensive player. And I know the potential is in there offensively, and it's been a pleasure to see this last, 6 weeks. I don't want to get too high on it because I've seen it come and go. He was my pick at the beginning of the season for the guy who I thought he was going to do this all year. and it feels like a fool me once, fool me twice kind of situation. I the only bummer is, like you say, it feels almost like you're wasting him at third base when the middle of the infield is in desperate need of a defensive upgrade, and there's one standing 45 feet to the right. It feels like a real kind of like missed opportunity. But if this is what we're going with, I could just assess how I feel about him as a third baseman, and great. I feel great. I feel totally secure with him over there defensively. There's no learning curve at all. When I said it's been pretty uneventful, I just mean the fact that you put him over there and you don't even think about it. You're not even like, when I say uneventful, I'm talking more about the negatives, the errors, and everything like that. He's as sure-handed as it gets anywhere on the field, and I feel good about that. Is that enough to offset how I now feel bad about so many other positions? Probably not, but credit to Bryson Stott. He's doing everything that he should be doing, and he is hitting the ball, and I think he has the potential to be that great player. And I hope that if there is baseball next season, they take the entirety of the offseason, which I think the lockout might start right after the World Series, in which case they might not even be able to make Trey Turner go work out in an outfield somewhere. But whatever it takes, I think next season, yes, Stott should be manning shortstop, because it seems like a waste to have him anywhere else, assuming that Arise is back, which, frankly, I hope he would be. But yeah, that's my assessment of that. Did you have more thoughts on Stott before I give an update from the game here?
No, that was everything about Stott.
Update from the game here. The Alec Bohm disease is apparently contagious, and Luis Arise has become infected. After the Cardinals tried to one-up the Phillies with poor bullpen management by putting Caleb Ferguson, who you may remember as the guy who walked everybody last night, they put him back in the game to face the top of the order. He walked Schwarber, he walked Turner, he walked Harper, he walked the bases loaded, and then the Cardinals had to go bring in a righty, Ryan Stanek, to pitch to Luis Arise with the bases loaded, and with a 1-0 count, he swung at a ball off the plate and grounded into a 3-2-3 double play. The Phillies did not get a run out of the bases loaded, nobody out situation, and now the Cardinals have homered off of Tim Mesa and lead it 2-0 in the 8th, so it's looking like they are going to drop to 4-4 with Luis Arise. All I can say is I'm glad I wasn't able to watch that in real time, because that sounds exhausting. All right, let's get to the outfield now, and the only real change there is Bryce Harper is our new right fielder. I don't know. What do you got? Hey, before we get into what you got, can we just acknowledge the fact that you in the group chat were very much taking a victory lap on Harper and Schwarber struggling since the All-Star break, and you blaming it on the home run derby, and now they both seem to be back. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll eat that, but I'll also with the fact that it only took a month. Only took a month to get out of the home run derby funk, but that's fine. That's fine. We didn't need any of those extra wins during that month. Regarding Bryce Harper in right field, my concerns are still there. Hasn't had too many, 50-50 balls go his way in either direction. There was one play, I believe it was his second night in right field. Somebody hit one at the base of the wall, and he took a bad angle on it, allowed the runner to advance or score, I believe, and it did make a difference in that game. I'll give him time for that. He should know the angles at Citizens Bank Park in right field, but it was like his second game back in there since 2021. So that's going to be, just something to keep our eye on. I worry about him running into the wall. I worry about him taking a weird slide in foul territory. His arm looks great. I will say that there were a couple real cannon shots to home plate. He didn't take anyone out there, but the velocity looked great. The line looked great. That's a positive. Hope he doesn't rip anything in his UCL again. But my just general concern with Bryce Harper in right field is I don't want him there at this stage in his career when we need him to, live up to his contract for another 7. It just seems like an unnecessary risk. I'll give him credit for being willing to do whatever for the team. But given what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast about what's going on at first base, get him back in there. Take a flyer with somebody else in right field, whether it's De La Cruz, Derek Hill, or literally anybody else. Let's put our biggest gamble in right field and not at a pivotal infield position. That's my opinion.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. He's fine out there. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. And frankly, it makes me wonder if there was ever really a need to move to first base in the first place.
Well, I think that had something to do with, we had Castellanos and nowhere to hide him. There was a time in 2022 when this team had 5 guys just barreling towards the first base / DH position for the rest of their career. Right field needed to house one of those guys. And that's what we had to do.
The funny thing is, going into that 2023 season, Rhys Hoskins was one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at, in 2026, Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, and Bryce Harper, and by far the one who is still the most agile, mobile, and capable of playing the field is Harper.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like that, I know Harper wants to do what is best for the team, and I think also selfishly he gets something out of it. I think he really enjoys being looked at as like a selfless kind of guy, which is fine, whatever his motivation is. I'm not here to judge. I don't care. But he wants to do the right thing for one reason or another. I'm just not convinced this is the right thing. I'm not convinced him moving to first base was the right thing, and I'm definitely not convinced that after he's finally figured out first base and turned into a good defender, that moving him back to right field, again, to accommodate Alec Bohm, that's the thing. If you went out and traded for, Freddie Freeman or somebody, okay, sure. But you didn't. You have arguably your worst player at first base. It just feels like an experiment that's doomed to fail. And it's not an indictment of Bryce at all. But you also have way more intriguing bats that I would like to see get reps in the field, in the outfield. I think that's your only area where you can kind of pick and choose and try different things and see if somebody can get hot heading into October. And to me, Brandon Marsh got hot earlier in the season, and Derek Hill has been hot at different points. And Justin Crawford, I wouldn't say he's ever gotten hot, but he's gotten, warm. But to me, that's where you should be trying different things. It shouldn't be at first base. So I would say move Harper back there. That being said, he's doing what he's, supposed to be doing in the outfield. He's certainly an adequate defender out there. And he has some big hits over the last week as well. And, I think that if you get to important games, he's one of the only people I trust to turn it up a notch and be kind of the red light player, like what they always used to say about Jimmy Rollins. Nothing bad to say about Harper. I just don't think they're doing him a service by having him out there.
Agreed.
And then we get to the pitchers. We wanted them to make a little bit more, and I'm going to include 3 people here. I'm going to include a third person that was in our organization the whole time, but has certainly, over the last 3 starts, something has been a little bit different. So we're going to get to him in a minute. We'll talk about the 2 relievers they acquired. First of all, rest in peace to Caleb Killian, who came in, had, I think, 3 pretty terrible games, and hurt his oblique. And he's going to be out for a while. We don't know. I think there's a chance that Caleb Killian, and I know he's under team control, so maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but his 2026 season is going to go down as one of the all-time, oh yeah, I forgot we even had that guy, situations. He certainly has contributed, nothing. And I'm hopeful that he can come back because, I like some of his numbers in San Francisco, but overall, not a great start. What do you got on Caleb Killian?
I mean, I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna put any investment into a guy with an oblique strain on August 11th. Those things don't heal quickly. He is a right-handed. He's not the ultimate power pitcher, but he's a guy who needs a lot of torque to be effective, and an oblique is exactly what you need for that. So yeah, I think he was an intriguing piece of the Arise trade. Arise is a rental as we speak right now. We hope to re-sign him, but that was interesting to pick up a guy with about 5 years of team control, having a plus year. Just we lost it before we even knew what we had. So that's that. But we need another right-hander in the bullpen.
Well, where do you propose we get one of those?
I'm going to rely on Mike Sambuco to come back and tell us about some hot hand in AAA, maybe even the single A Lakewood. I don't care where he comes from. Get him in here if he can do anything for this team, because the guys on this roster ain't doing.
Sambuco is hearing this right now and just preparing a monologue about Gage Wood as we speak. Mike Sambuco, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Come back. Tell us who's in the farm system, and please make sure they're better than Alan Ronhell. All right. Let's get to the guy who's actually still on the active roster right now, Brooks Raley, member of the Mets, formerly left-handed reliever. Pretty solid track record, and overall has been, made 3 appearances for the Phillies, 2 of them good. One of them not so much. But his last two shutout innings. By the way, the Phillies did just lose 2-0 to the Cardinals, and you're never going to believe who made the last out.
Go figure. A ground ball out by Alec Bohm.
Can't believe it. Anyway, Brooks Raley, left-handed reliever out of the bullpen. Good numbers, small sample size with the Phillies so far. Talk to me about Brooks Raley.
Yeah, he followed the exact pattern that I would have predicted. You need at least one game to shake the Met off of you. So we're gonna look right past that. That's just something. It's an ooze, a film of some kind that just is caked on you when you leave that area of the country, and you gotta just bust out of it. So that's what he did in his first game. The last 2 games, his stuff looks strong. Breaking ball will look flat in that first outing. It looks sharp now. He is proven to be, a guy who can handle the 7th and 8th inning. Might be our only option when it comes down to it for at least the 7th inning. And it was the right trade for Dombo to make. I give him kudos for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I, wish he was right-handed. That's kind of my big thing now. Obviously, that was a major area of need for us, and it still is. But Raley, there's only only so much he can do about that, and he's gone out, and he has thus far been good. Like you say, you give him a freebie on the first one to shake the Mets stink off, and since then, 2 shutout innings. I'll say this: one of the few people in that bullpen that I feel any sort of confidence in when they come out. And look, it's a reworked bullpen at this point. Duran, obviously, is Duran, and Bolin, I think, has finally won me over. I've been skeptical of Bolin the entire year, but I feel like I'm being lulled into a false sense of security. Hopefully he doesn't betray my trust.
So far, just about Bolin, you have to, everyone wants to beat up Dombo, and I certainly am one of those people, but I will give him the Strom for Bolin swap. I mean, he's certainly won that one. Strom just got cut by the Royals with a 7+ ERA. Bolin has appeared to get more effective as the years gone on. I don't know if he was slotted as a true setup man prior to this, but he's got the makeup. Some guys you can tell seeing them on the mound enough in different situations in the late innings where they fit. I know you said in our group chat how frustrating that can be. How a guy can perform in the seventh and not in the eighth. That's a weird quirk in baseball for sure. But Bolin, yeah, I do trust him in the eighth inning. So that's it's some. I don't think we were there yet even last week.
Relievers are really frustrating in general, trying to figure out, trying to make heads or tails of them. Because you'll have a guy who's great one season and terrible the next. You'll have a guy who dominates the seventh inning and can't handle the eighth. Like I said in the group chat, like eighth to ninth, I understand, I get it, but seventh to eighth to me is like it should be the same shit, but it's not.
It's why they're relievers, right? You don't have any kids coming up even through college saying, you know what, I'm gonna be a seventh inning guy. That's just not how it works. You trip backwards into that role. So, yeah, the inconsistency that is so frustrating year to year. That's ball.
Yeah, it really is. And similarly, I'm sure that they thought they could rely on Brad Keller, and they could not. And I'm sure they think they can rely on Brooks Raley, and I hope to God that they're right. There's been way too much of like, the thing with relievers is like you just need to really hit on three of them, and you'll be good. And they haven't. With all the guys they've kind of brought up through the system in the last couple of years, they really have not had a lot of luck with anybody. I don't have much faith in any of those guys. The last one that they brought up who's done anything of note is Orion Kerkering, I feel like, and he now is certainly not somebody that I trust in leverage situations.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that it might be a little too harsh, but in my assessment, eye test alone, Ryan Kerkering is the bullpen version of Alec Bohm. I don't see the mental makeup in him. I'm sorry, I don't. It's concerning to me. Yeah, he's got the stuff. He's always had the stuff. I really thought he was going to be a closer in this league. He has Brad Lidge type of an arsenal, plus fastball and a pretty damn good slider. Has regressed on both of those and can't put either one in the strike zone. I've given up on him.
Okay, well, to me, that's the biggest difference between him and Alec Bohm, is Alec Bohm doesn't have the stuff. He never did.
Fair.
He never did. He's got the body of Pat Burrell and the power of Doug Glanville, and that's a pretty significant difference between him and Orion Kerkering. But as far as the mental makeup goes, you might be right. And that was obviously the way last season ended. Really tough thing to kind of bounce back from. And I thought that he was kind of like past that, but I'm deeply concerned now. But let's talk about somebody who, because look, part of doing one of these podcasts is you're going to take these players and you're going to say things and you hope that they prove you wrong. You watch these guys week in and week out and you get sick of them after a little while. I think any fan knows what I'm talking about. And when they're bad, you jump on the fact that they're bad. It just is what it is. And you hope that they prove you wrong. And one guy who might be in the midst of doing just that to me right now, and I would love it if he did that, is Andrew Painter. Andrew Painter sent down to the minors, got brought back right before the trade deadline. A lot of people hypothesized it was to showcase. He had one start against the Orioles. It went well. And then they didn't get another starter, and then they had to give him another start. And now all of a sudden he's the 5 starter again, except he looks completely different. In 3 starts since he's been recalled to the majors, 3 starts, I believe 15 and a third innings. His 1 start got cut short because of a hamstring injury, which he bounced back from nicely. He's allowed 5 runs. Quick math in my head, that's an ERA under 3. He is striking out more guys than he did before he got sent down. He is walking fewer guys. He is pitching with a purpose. His stuff looks better. His makeup looks a lot better. He took a no-hitter into the 6th inning in his last start. This is the best Andrew Painter has looked yet. Are you buying or selling the resurgence of Andrew Painter for the rest of this season?
I'm buying, and not just because he's the only thing left on the friggin' shelf. Look, he this could turn out to be exactly what you said. Just the way baseball goes, you give up on guys, but it's why it is the best sport in the world. How easily you can be redeemed. This guy came in with all the hype in the world, especially in this organization. We don't come across pitching phenoms. We might get one a decade that we even have a chance to get. But yeah, he gets hurt right away, takes way longer than expected to recover. We put all of our stock into him. We've talked about this at length with no starting pitching depth going into the season, expecting him to be a regular part of the rotation. An abject failure there. He doesn't win a game after his first one on March 29th. And I think if you talk to any Phillies fan after he was sent down a month or so ago, and even with the reports we got from AAA, because they were still, heavily talking about what he was doing at Lehigh Valley, he was getting shelled, even worse than he was in the majors. And the line from the team was, well, part of that is by design. We're having him work through specific mechanical kinks, and this is trial and error, and that's what we're working on. Would be a beautiful arc for us to, at the darkest hour when we've really truly given up on Andrew Painter, at least this year, that he comes out of the ashes and is an effective fifth, maybe fourth starter in this rotation. All in, because I have nothing else to buy, as I said. Yeah, let's go. And I from what I gather, a lot of positive things about his changeup. Fastball location obviously has improved. Yeah, if the mechanics have been fixed, we know he has the ability. Yeah, let's ride Andrew Painter as far as we can in the playoff.
It made me think, when is the last time that the Phillies fixed anybody?
Ooh,
I think this is the part.
That's a great question, and I'm not sure we ever have. I will say we've pulled guys out of where other franchises have given up on them. A couple guys on the '08 team come to mind immediately: Jason Worth, Shane Victorino. I can't remember anyone who was fixed within the organization by the organization. That's a great question.
Because there's a difference in, guys that come over, and there's the change of scenery guys, right? Like, where, they were just in a bad situation and they came over and they just mentally, it unlocked them, whatever. That happens. Then there's the guys, and there's certain organizations. I feel like the Rays are like one of these organizations where it's like, yeah, this guy was lost at sea. It looked like his major league career was over. He went there. The pitching coach was like, you're doing this at an 84-degree angle. It's got to be 78 or lower. And they poured over video, and he had a hitch in his thing, and, whatever. There's a fix. There's a tangible thing that they pointed to, and they're like, change this. And it resurrected his career. I can't think of a single incident of the Phillies doing that. And that is what I think is giving me pause on Andrew Painter, because when you hear things like that, like, yeah, it's by design. We want him to get shelled in AAA because we're working through some things. When did you guys start working through things? This is new. I'm not used to this. So it seems very atypical of the Phillies, and I'm apprehensive for that reason and that reason alone. It's got nothing to do with Painter. He does have the stuff, and he is pitching very, very well right now, and I hope he keeps it up. And by the way, don't look now, but over his last 7 starts, Aaron Nola has an ERA of 4.28.
Don't even speak to it. Let it happen. I'm scared to death of comment. I was actually hoping we'd never bring his name up this podcast, because I didn't want to acknowledge that. Yeah, he looks better.
Well, I will neutralize it by saying that he is 0-4 in those starts. He hasn't won a game in damn near 2 months, but not
his fault. The last handful. I will say that.
No, and the reason this team is in the position that they're in a negative sense, is because they've gotten nothing out of their 4 and 5 starters. if they get something out of their 4 and 5 starters going forward, this is a playoff team. And if it's a playoff team, you don't need 5 starters. And if Andrew Painter is throwing the stuff he's throwing now, and you need a right-handed reliever in the bullpen,
Let's
that
go.
might be your guy.
Love it. I love it.
Might be your guy. I don't know. We will find out. The only other thing I want to cover, Carl, and I meant to cover this up top, but let's get it out of the way now, because I thought this was really, really cool. And I give a tip of the cap to the Phillies, who will be playing the Twins at the Field of Dreams game before they head into, Carl's territory of Minneapolis, Minnesota for the back end of that series. But ahead of the Field of Dreams series, they had 4 players come back and throw out the first pitch. 4 players who had the Moonlight Graham thing from the movie, although not even to that degree. They didn't even get an inning in the field. These guys got called up to the team, never played in a major league game. And they brought them back to throw out the first pitch, and even saying it out loud gives me goosebumps. I think it's so cool. For all the times where the team gives the first pitch to a district sales representative for Coca-Cola or whatever the fuck, it was really nice to see them absolutely knock this one out of the ballpark. I loved it. What did you think?
Absolutely loved it. I remember watching, the intros of all the alumni. That was on Sunday afternoon, I think, right, when they had everybody. There was one name. There were a couple names I didn't recognize, all of whom were in this batch of 4 guys. That I can't remember his first name, but it was Toffee is his last name. I actually do remember a transaction mentioning that name in 2022 or 3, and I was trying to figure out is he from South Philly? Like, is it what is the reason why he's on there? Never would have guessed that it was this Field of Dreams, Moonlight Graham idea, and I just smiled ear to ear when I learned that was what they were doing. That was so cool. That movie is still just the greatest as a baseball fan. And, for them the Phillies are, Alumni Weekend was this past weekend. And, it's always a gigantic self-suck. But there is something genuine that you hear in all these guys who played for the organization. You have guys who, most of their career wasn't even with the Phillies, but they still show up. Aaron Rowan was in the booth this weekend. That was really cool. But you do hear a consistent message that, this organization treats its guys well, keeps them around, keeps them connected, and there's really, that familial aspect is retained, and I love that. We certainly feel as frustrated as we get with everything else about the team. It's great to be a Phillies fan. It's great for these guys to be part of the organization. So all that was really fun, and for them to nail it with this, this Moonlight Graham thing, keeping that big tent mentality. You were with us at all. You're with us forever. That was really, really friggin' cool. Kudos to the Phils.
And Chase Utley spoke to that kind of familial aspect in his speech, which I thought was really good as well. And shout out to Pat Burrell, who killed it as the opening act.
He did. He really, really did. The guy never ceases to impress me.
I didn't think he had it in him. He opened with a joke. He got a literal out loud laugh out of me.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When he opened with, "How come they never show my defensive highlights?" Just really well done. The Phillies always nail it with that sort of thing. You got to kill it somewhere when you have 2 titles in 150 years. You gotta do something right. And I know that all the former Phillies always have a blast coming back, and I'm sure Harry Callis was enjoying it from his spot in heaven overlooking the Ghost Energy deck. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks as always for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more. We'll bring Mike on to talk about why the fuck Alex McFarland is in close games in August. Until next time, I'm Pat Barker. That's Carl Bacuti. We're the Specific Jawns. See you guys next week. Go Phils.
Go Phils.